our super panel, which Michael Rubenstein will lead. So, Michael, come on out. And as many of you know, Michael is our president, and he joins us from many years in the industry. Come on, just fill in time for Michael. Great job.
Thank you.
There you go.
All right. Welcome, everybody. And yes, we have it right. So we're going to have a great session right now. We're actually joined with an incredible panel here. Andy Hart on the end from VP of Advertising Online, Microsoft, based here in London, but with global remit. Thank you so much for being here. Mikhail Ferreira, longtime veteran of the industry, Managing Director of EMEA for High Media. And also thank you for being here. And Richard Wheaton, thank you so much for being here, CEO of Neo at Ogilvy for EMEA. And yeah, wonderful to have you all here. So we were just talking about mobile. And Nicholas said that 2013, you've heard this before, but he said 2013 really could be the year of mobile. Do you buy it?
I've never heard that one before. I think it's a bit like 2013, year of the call center. You know, it's actually critical to what we do, but I'm sorry, as a planner buyer as I am, I do see it as a support medium, which may be the emperor's wearing no clothes type statement.
What do you mean by a support medium?
I mean, it's critical. I mean, it's really important. I mean, a response client like Sony that we work with, 20 to 25% of their search results are on mobile devices, so we know it's very important. But it's not a lead medium. It's not something which starts a campaign. It's something which kind of people use as a response mechanism. They might be using it in John Lewis to see if I can get a better price or whatever, and we're trying to cut them off in that process. But it's not a lead medium for me.
Not a lead medium? What do you guys think?
Well, every year is the year of mobile, right?
Yeah.
But I do think it is the year of mobility. And I think we take a broader definition of mobile and we start to think about phablets and tablets and slablets and all of these hybrid devices that are coming about. We're starting to see a lot more interest from clients and their agencies on how we should use these devices and how they change the opportunity to connect with consumers. And I think more importantly, what we're seeing is how the devices connect together and the consumer journey. It can be affected by advertising messages. But it does bring up a big red flag, I think, for me, in one area when we start to think about the mobility of devices and the number of impressions or interactions that you get from a content or service point of view, is that we're about to go into an era of enormous exposure, where consumers are going to be touching devices all day long, and the opportunity to interact with them is going to be overtly tempting. And I'm a little bit concerned about the overabundance of supply that the industry will have. You know, should we be able to run advertising wherever we want, every time someone uses a mobile device or a tablet, every time they interact with a PC or a screen? And what are the rules that we should set out in that new era?
Mm-hmm. And what do you think?
I think that as an industry, we're going to be a little bit spoiled, and I think we've got to be a little bit careful. And I think there's two ways of thinking about it. One, if you look at the success of old media, old media is won by having scale, effectiveness, but limited supply. And whether it's print that regulates itself, or you've got TV or radio, which is regulated by government, there is limited supply. The good news about limited supply is decent yields, and without decent yields and decent returns, media owners, service providers, app builders can't fund great new services. So I think there's a responsibility there to make sure that we get fair return on investment for media and services. On the other end, we believe in openness and we believe in competition, and we believe that the good and the great should win. So I am, in my liberal spirit, says, hey, leave it open.
Right. So, but openness is a little bit of a different concept from constraining supply, right? It seems like your philosophy in a way is if we constrain supply and make the units more engaging, for example, with consumers, we end up with a better internet, right? Mm-hmm. We're talking here about how to create a better internet. That's your philosophy, right?
I think that's absolutely right. And I think that form, targeting, all very important. There is one fear I do have, as we talk about it. with overabundance could lead to blindness, ad blindness. With ad blindness, you could lead to ad avoidance. And the last thing any of us need is consumers switching off every time they see an ad. So what should the rules be? And I'm sure the agencies will be very keen to control those rules. What should those rules be to go forward?
It's a great question. Richard, I have a question for you, which is, obviously, Neo is responsible for working with some of the biggest brands, the most prominent brands in the world. Would you pay more for that advertising? How would you feel about advertising in the world that Andy's described?
Yeah, I also add we work for a lot of our market brands. So, Sony is trying to shift Vaio computers, 1,000 euros, IBM, BA, we're trying to push people into business class. So I'm happy to pay more to hit those people, and I know they're hard to hit. So they're on the front page, they're reading front pages of quality newspapers across Europe. And so paying a fair price for a more engaging ad is fair. But the other side is there is a whole ecosystem of touch points, and our job is to try and maximize all of that user journey. And engaging ad units are part of that, but so are the humble banners as well. So we have to work with both.
Fair point.
But do you think there's two parts to effectiveness? One is the creativity, and I love the opportunity we can talk about bringing creativity back into the business, real impact by delivering really impactful messages. But then there's also the combination of assuming, it's all very well reaching the right person at the right time with the right message, but that person's got to be attentive. And what concerns me about certainly mobile is a lot of the uses of mobile are proactive service-oriented functions where the attention may not be on to receiving that message. What do we do then?
One of the challenges with mobile is actually measuring it. So that the whole post-view concept is very important to us. Say, for example, senior executives aren't clickers by and large. We've tracked with a lot of clients the fact that their most valuable customers look at ads and then come to their site. They don't necessarily click on ads. So we can do post-view analysis. It's much harder to do on mobile. I don't think Google is very motivated to resolve that issue. And so it is very hard to see the role of mobile in that ecosystem. I agree. I think there are a lot of buttons and things which people don't even see. But I think we mustn't talk down the banner because it really works. We have huge data analysis to say it shifts people on. It improves brand consideration and it drives action. So it has a price, it has a role, but it's still really critical. And frankly, I still think it is our currency. And we have to make it work. I think if there are clients in the room, a lot of clients have incredibly bad perception right now of the banner ad. And a lot of retailers think you're mad if you start talking about buying in CPM and stuff like that. And I think our job as an industry is to market the more engaging units, but also to explain the role of things like banners. Because
what's the average click-through on a banner in your
I think that's a moribund question, sir, because it really depends on the price you pay for it.
Well, I think we've got to be a little bit more careful in an overabundant world. Because I hear people going, I got 0.064% click-through. Isn't that fantastic because the price I paid for it? When did we as an industry, and I know the click-through is definitely not the best measure, and attribution models really do need to be reevaluated, but caterers paraphrase.
I'll give you an example. We did a study with Amex a few years ago where we showed them running just a direct response ad and running a brand ad, and this is banners, and then running half brand ads and then the direct response ad, and running these in A/B testings. And the uplift of running the brand ad first was 71% in terms of approval rate. So now that's not...
What was the base? What was the base number?
I can't give you the base number.
No, and how big were the banners? Were they the little ones that we had in the
They were
98?
standard IAB banners, but I can't give you Amex's monthly turnover of cards, but we're talking thousands, so it's statistically valid. But my point is, look, if you put an ad in front of a human being, it should have a role, right? I mean, what's wrong with putting an ad in front of someone?
Nothing if it's right, if it's beautiful, useful, and relevant.
Right.
But if it's not,
so that's what a banner is.
No, a banner's an ad slot. It's the creative work that makes the absolute difference.
Okay, in that ad slot is an ad, right? And that's got to have a value. I'm not saying they're all worth the same as an interstitial, but it's something as an industry we have to, I think, evaluate, put a fair price against it,
Let me ask a question about that.
We're having a heated debate. It's great.
It is great. It's fantastic.
And it's quite hot under these lights.
No. We'll come back in 10 minutes. You guys. But I want to hear from Mikhail as well, because actually, High Media.
The voice of reason.
Has built a big business in banners, obviously, a very big business across all of Europe. You see a lot of different things. Where do you see the banner and display advertising heading?
So we have billions of impression, but we see that the performance and the quality of the impression is not the same. So that's why we have decided to switch everything into an exchange, to put everything in competition. Whatever is this branding or performance campaign, we put everything in competition. And thanks to that, we give the real value of an ad and the performance of this ad. So today, when we discuss with publishers, we don't ask them to add a lot of formats, but we ask them to improve the way they serve ads. We improve the size of the formats and kind of things. And regarding the mobile, we have the same approach, because due to the fact that we have a huge amount of impression, we also have the same thing on the mobile. That's why we have launched last year a business unit dedicated on mobile, and the brand is Mobviews. So we have the same approach that we have on display. So this is not a huge market, but this is a growing market with 100% of growth by year. So this is some business, but the main issue on mobile, we are talking about click-through rate, but at the end, there is a huge discrepancy when you want to track what's happened on mobile. This is like the Far West today. So we need to find a good technical solution to track everything. Today, the main there is a difference between impression into application and impression on mobile website. You have a lot of retailers who do not have a website. Retailers who do not have a website to track the conversion. So at the end, it's just let's say a branding market today, because we are not able to track the performance of this kind of market.
Okay. So, one thing I find very interesting that you mentioned, and I think all of you have touched on in a way, is, you all have businesses that have existed for a long time, obviously, and are prominent players on the buy side, the sell side, the networks side. And you've all embraced to varying degrees, and actually we're all pretty early adopters in this area of embracing, I'm not going to call it programmatic. Actually, I am going to call it programmatic, but I want to talk about why.
Don't get me started.
I want to get you started. Let's just call it a market-based approach.
Okay, let me just have my moment on programmatic, because I really struggle with it. Okay, how many clients?
We need to get this out of the way. Go ahead.
How many clients do we have in the room here right now? How many people on the brand client side? Okay, good. We can have an in-house discussion. because it just dumbs down what we're doing so much. I have a kettle that is programmatic, all right? It's not doing justice to how I make my cup of tea, right? I'm involved in the process. And the thing about calling it programmatic is you are telling all the people outside of this room, machines do it. And we all know that's not the case. We had that long discussion about the role of innovation. 3 agencies can use the same tool and have completely different results and completely different skills at running them. So I think it's just the wrong word, and I think it's actually really misleading. Every time we used to finish a search pitch, which have changed dramatically in the last years, but 5 years ago, they would always end a 2-hour pitch with, oh, and by the way, can you do this all on auto bidding? And you know what they're saying is basically, do we actually need you because you're quite expensive, and maybe we can just turn on the machine? And it's like, no, a computer cannot read creative, whatever. So that's my little rant. But I really think we need to move on from the word programmatic. And I appreciate I'm a bit like Canute trying to stop an ocean right now, because everybody uses it.
Okay,
but I didn't know where it came from.
So programmatic devalues the role of people in advertising, devalues the role of the agency, is what I hear you saying. So what is the value of the agency moving forward, given these, given the fact that there are technology changes happening? I agree, they maybe should not define what's happening, but what should define what's happening?
Even more important than it ever was before. What do you expect me to say, dude? but no, I love complexity. I think it's good, right? I mean, honestly, most clients are struggling just to get through their expenses and their admin. The idea brands are just going to bring search in-house and bring advertising in-house. They can bring making TV commercials, having lawyers and doctors. Should have a doctor in this building, but they don't. Right. So I think that the role of the agency is just becoming more and more pivotal. And a lot of our clients are increasingly outsourcing, not insourcing.
So
there's as industries like retail that have done a lot of insourcing and have their own teams. And actually, when you talk to them, a lot of their methods are 3 years old because they hired their guys 3.5 years ago, and they stopped innovating. So I think the role of the agency is very healthy, but we got to continue to add value.
You said to me previously, and I think this is something I heard from both of you before, that the value of delivering insights in I'm sorry I have to say it, programmatic.
You don't have to say that.
Okay, you're right. Give me a better word and I'll stop saying it.
So I had a discussion with Brian about it. So I think exchange
Fine.
buying or I think real-time bidding is just fine because
Okay.
it actually makes it sound like we do something every day.
Fair point. So I'll go with exchange for a moment.
Thank
So
you.
in a world of increasing prominence of exchange-traded advertising, the role of insights, you mentioned to me previously, you think, and delivering insights to clients is even of greater significance. Andy, is that something you would agree with? I mean, Microsoft obviously was a pioneer in the exchange-based space, launched the first ad exchange in the UK with Microsoft Advertising Exchange. Where's the unique value add that you bring to your clients in that world?
So I think there's three things that we bring. I think the technology and partnership with that Nexus has really been superb. I think the scale, which one of the great advantages of the technology is that we can do a lot quickly, and also creativity. And this is where our partnerships with the agency networks, whether it's media or planning or digital or creative, are so important. Because as you get to scale and as the technologies get smarter and smarter, it does commoditize. And we all get clever and we're looking for marginal improvements. But the real cut through and the real breakthrough is really understanding how consumer behavior is changing and how we can influence that positively through insights, through research, and therefore through the commercial partnerships. And I used a statement, I think, earlier about beautiful, useful, and relevant. And it's quite a nice little model to go through. One of the engineers, and we have a lot of engineers at Microsoft, as you can imagine, said to me, when they look at an advertising exposure, they see it as a social contract, which I thought was quite philosophical for an engineer, where there's the intersection between the consumer, the advertiser, and the publisher. But when they look at the old world through engineers' eyes, someone loses out. Yeah, it's bad targeting, it's a bad ad, it's a bad slot. It doesn't work. Why can't we get to a world where all three partners have an accretive, a positive experience? And I think that's where insight comes in. I think that's where agencies can add a lot of value. And I think that's where we can add a lot of value through the technology, through the scale, through our insights, through our data, and obviously the creativity we can bring.
Very fair. What about at High Media? I mean, Brian talked in the opener about the fact that the role of the ad network is changing a lot. High Media is best known for having built a successful ad network business several years ago, but has been taking significant steps to evolve the business model. Where's the unique value add for a company like High Media moving forward?
Yeah, so High Media is a network with more than 700 publishers all across Europe, so a huge amount of publishers, all in exclusivity. So we are not an ad network buying impression or stock of impression, but we manage the 100% of the stock of the impression. And we change radically our business model, moving into the ad exchange. But more than providing the technology, we have developed a lot of different technologies on top of AppNexus to provide more services to the publishers. So we have developed a CRM tool, we have developed some dashboards for the publishers, a DMP, and a lot of different features to make their life easier when they work with a SSP or this kind of tool. Because it's not that easy when you are a publisher the first time you are plugged on the platform, it's very difficult to operate and to understand what's happened. So we bring the technology, but more than that, we are totally transparent for the advertiser, but also for the publishers, and we share experience with them. We share the knowledge. We explain them how to improve the way to sell their impression, how to set up the floors, these kind of things, and we bring a local vision because we have local offices in 7 countries in Europe, so we really know all the specificity of each market. Because all the markets are not the same, have not the same maturity. If you're looking at the RTB figures, you will see that in UK, Germany, France, the RTB is growing very, very fast. For instance, in France, our RTB on iMedia is growing 30% by month, so it's huge. But if we go, if we have a look into the Spanish and Italian market, this is not the same kind of growth, because the market have not the same maturity. So we need to change the approach when we explain them the RTB and find a smart way to build exchanges with these kind of publishers and agencies or advertisers.
Richard, you said to me, it was interesting. Brian in his opening talked about the fact that he thinks innovation is alive and well in the European digital media ecosystem. And he talked about different kinds of innovation, technology innovation, he talked about business model innovation. You sort of voiced what I interpret as a controversial opinion when we chatted yesterday, which is that you think that some of the innovation in the European market is leading to ad prices that are above what they should be, or that ads cost too much because of innovation. Is that something you stand by?
Totally, yeah. Yeah.
Well, what do you mean?
Where can I start? I mean, I think we all know that there are a lot of layers of pricing going into the average buy. I heard one big publisher say, there was a 50,000 euro spend across the region, and 35,000 of that actually came to like media owner effectively, which implies that 30% of it is going in fees. That's ad agencies, but it's also the DSP, that's various other helpful people making sure that maybe this the viewability is measured and it's brand safe and everything. But I think that is going mad. And there is also a sort of a trading desk mentality, which is discussed a lot in the US, which is who's double dipping, who's taking extra cut. We don't have any clients in the building apparently, so I can talk about that as well. And I think it's all adding to an inflated price. And I think one of the critical things is to make sure we get to prices that are reflective of the value of the medium, which when it's long tail, far down a big site, it should be low. And the wonderful thing about an auction site for publishers, an auction model is if you've got 3 car companies all launching on the same day and wanting space, the prices can go very high. And I still feel that this auction model is still a bit jaundiced in RTB. It seems to me like everyone's trying to find ways around it of not actually really making it into an auction. The elephant in the room is that in the UK, display is what, 16% of digital spend? We're just not effectively competing with search, and we're still not. And 50% of what my agency does is search, and that's like, clients are just throwing themselves still at that. And as I said, they're still pretty jaundiced about the view of the banner. So, we have to attack that, make the cake bigger. Why isn't it 35% of digital spend? Whilst it's overpriced, it's not efficient. And agencies like mine will go to clients and say, what, with all of the arrangement of stuff we can do from affiliates right the way through to display, you're best off putting it in affiliates and search right now. Yep. And that's because we are there to drive sales with the money we've got. So we have to find a fair price. And I think, as I say, I think there's a lot of agency models, a lot of media owner models, which are just trying to sort of keep the cost in there.
I have a question, but I want to hear what you have to say first.
So I'm listening to your argument, and I agree with most of it, but I'll pick out the bits that I don't agree with.
What about the bits you liked?
When you did your pricing analysis, which we appreciate, the only thing that you described in that equation that was overpriced was the agency component.
Yeah. Well, I didn't decide.
You did. The only thing that sounded to me that was overpriced.
Yeah.
When you start to look at the pricing from a media side, from a publishing side, we don't do cost-based pricing in this industry anymore. The cost of actually putting together high-quality editorial, service-led products, distributing them, costs a lot of money, and that's investment. And I think, especially if you look in Europe, we've got some of the greatest media brands. You've seen some of them on the stage today, and some great services and innovative services that are coming out. And there needs to be some form of responsibility for how the advertisers who piggyback those services invest back into them. It's not a zero-sum game where we're trying to get the lowest prices,
right?
Because and that's a fact. But where I do agree with you is about effectiveness, and that we want these adverts to be more effective. And the only way we're going to grow display is that we actually start to produce more impactful formats that are more immersive, that catch consumers at the right time. The great thing about search is you pretty much know the intent, and we heard Andy Mitchell talk about a version of intent this morning. Search works because you've got people at the right time. I don't think we've done enough as agencies, as publishers, as industries, to really understand that consumer journey to make advertising more effective. When we do, then the share will grow.
So you think search and display are effectively allocated credit?
Be more specific, because there's a number of ways I could answer that.
Are people effectively attributing value to display ads and the work that they do relative to search and other media?
I can't speak for other people.
I would say no. I would say absolutely. Attribution work shows us it has a huge role in the chain, but it is, last click and all of that. It is undervalued for sure. Yeah.
So everyone's just kind of like fighting for the attribution at the bottom of the funnel.
Yeah.
Nirvana, and it's coming now, is the combination of both. Being able to leverage the data from both consumer, display, and user journeys to be able to influence what is the right ads and the right messages. And I think some of the stuff that you guys are doing in terms of dynamic creative is an interesting way forward. And obviously, the better the data set that we've got going in, the better the output and the more effective it will be.
My one rejoinder to your point about the quality of what you do, and I know there's a lot of sales houses here, a lot of people on the sales side. This is the big challenge: is if we open this up to free auction, how low could it go? But I think what we see with Google and we see with very valuable media spots like you're talking about is how high could it go is the other side. And I know that's like jumping into a bit of an abyss on the sales side, but that's surely got to be part of having a quality property like you
all
have.
for openness and fair pricing, but that does come down to my first point of limiting supply. When you've got overabundant supply, you know what's going to happen to prices. But I can tell you a couple of stories. I'll only tell you one because we're flashing on zeros here. I saw coming out of our AppNexus, Microsoft Advertising Exchange, our pricing. And it was on a now retired famous product of ours that came through, and we found on a certain ad slot on a certain day, we were getting a higher yield in the exchange than we were in terms of brand reserve pricing through my sales team that was selling direct. You can imagine how the conversation went when I called them into the office to see what's going. But there are pockets of opportunity where fair price will come through. But it's very, very complicated, and having a partner like AppNexus, I think, it has been a very positive experience for us to learn how to get this right.
Cool. Maybe we should just continue the conversation out after lunch, and everyone else can come attend. But anyways, thank you very much for participating. Thank you for your partnership, and thank you all.
Really well done. Yes.